Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Max Velocity weather forecast. And in today's forecast, we'll be breaking down a large winter storm that'll impact the United States as we head into the work week that could bring feet of snow and big issues to the United States. I'll give you the latest breakdown on this massive winter storm and more in this forecast. But let's first begin with what's happening across the United States today. And we're actually going to begin with the Pacific Ocean, which is where a low pressure system is currently originating. This is actually what is going to cause a massive winter storm as we go into Wednesday and Thursday of this week. That'll consist from the Central Plains all the way through the Midwest and even into the northeastern sections of the United States. And it'll even impact the northern Ohio Valley. This is going to be a very large winter storm. It could even be our largest winter storm that we've seen so far this winter, and it is expected to cause some big problems. We'll get to more on that here in just a moment. But what this is essentially going to do, it's going to be very slow over the next several days. It has been kicking up a bunch of moisture into the four corner states, so there is a little bit of rain and even some snow back into New Mexico and Arizona, and this will continue to kick up even some clouds into the southern plains over the next 48 hours. We're also watching back up in Canada a little low pressure system that will bring a little bit of snowfall to those in the northern plains over the next few days. It shouldn't be too concerning, but it will cause a few problems, and in fact there are winter weather advisories in effect for those in northeastern North Dakota, along with areas back through Minnesota, and even northern Wisconsin is included in that threat right now. So throughout the rest of the day today, we'll be watching for some snow showers in northern sections of North Dakota. Once we go into the overnight hours into Monday morning, there will be some light to moderate snow for areas in Minnesota, and as well as back into northeastern North Dakota, which is where those winter weather advisories are in effect. Eventually going through the late morning hours Monday and into the afternoon, that low pressure system will intensify just a little bit, so there will be an increased amount of precipitation out of it, which could bring some additional snowfall. In terms of snow with this system, it will not be a big winter storm, but there is actually a potential for upwards of 2 to 4 inches of snow in a lot of these areas. We may have a few isolated locations between 6 to 8 inches in northern sections of Minnesota, but it is a low chance at this time. I do think the computer models are overestimating right now, but there's a possibility at least for a widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow out of this system. And for those in the Midwest, this activity will begin to pick up around lunchtime Monday for northern and central Wisconsin, which is where a couple of bands of light to moderate snow may exist, with maybe a burst of heavy snow not being out of the question. And as this low pressure system moves over the Great Lakes, we'll see some more snow activity pick up in the upper Michigan Peninsula, which may bring some additional snowfall accumulation there. Some light snow possible early Tuesday morning for those in Michigan, but it should not be that much of a concern. There is a low chance as well for some blowing snow that could cause not really blizzard-like conditions, but it might get close to that due to how strong the winds will be. Wind gusts upwards of 35 miles per hour will be possible. Now, in terms of snowfall accumulation, I would expect the majority of northern Wisconsin and the upper Michigan Peninsula to be between 1 to 3 inches, with a couple of spots maybe getting closer to 5 to 6 inches. It will really just depend on how heavy the snow is, which it is expected to be fairly light at this time, but again, things may change just a little bit as we get closer. Now, in terms of the next several days, we are watching a much larger system, and that is again originating back in the Pacific Ocean. This is what will be our next winter storm in the United States, and it will cause a lot of issues. So I'm going to kind of give you a general idea here, and then we'll get much more specific in just a moment. But beginning with Wednesday morning, we'll be watching for the threat for some heavy snow to start picking up throughout the day Wednesday, along with the threat for some freezing rain, which will accumulate some ice. So this will be a very dangerous area. Anywhere from the Midwest and all the way back in even to the northern plains and the Northeast will be dealing with this threat. Once we go through Thursday, this threat will start to shift a bit further up to the north and northeast, and eventually going into Friday, the system all moves out to the east and will be out of the United States most likely sometime Friday afternoon. Now, in more detail for those in the Midwest, things will really begin to ramp up once we head into late Wednesday, but beginning with late Tuesday is when there will be a threat for some light to moderate snow, which when you wake up Wednesday morning, there actually might already be some snow accumulation. So keep that in the back of your head here. If you're anywhere back up in the Midwest, primarily north of Chicago would be where that snow will likely fall. And once we go into the later part of Wednesday, so kind of around sunset or so, that is when things really ramp up in the Midwest. This is when travel impacts will be likely, along with the threat for ice and very heavy snow will very well be likely across the Midwest. Now, the current computer models in terms of the European model has been keeping that freezing rain really in this small area here. It's a very thin area, but there will be a threat for some freezing rain, which will equivalent to ice for those in southern Michigan and even back through areas near the Wisconsin as well as the Illinois border border, so near Chicago, there will be that threat for ice. Meanwhile, there'll be some heavy snow in southern Minnesota back through Wisconsin. Now, this is subject to change, but the computer models have been awfully consistent over the last 48 hours in terms of where this precipitation will fall. So we're getting a better idea of where this ice will occur along with where that snow will occur. Once we go into Thursday morning, there will still be a mix of some freezing rain. It will likely be lighter by Thursday morning, but there will still be some ice accumulation near the Wisconsin and Illinois border. Meanwhile, heavy snow will continue in Iowa back through Wisconsin. And once we go into Thursday afternoon, only some light to maybe moderate snow will be remaining in the Midwest. One of your biggest questions is likely going to be how much snow are we going to see and how much ice will we see? Well, for right now, the European model has been indicating that there will be a lot of snow out of this system. Now, what will the exact totals be? It is still a bit of an uncertainty mark because things have been changing just a little bit, but for right now, there is a likelihood of at least seeing 6 inches of snow in this area. Now, the European model is indicating that there is a likelihood of seeing over a foot of snow, so there is a chance for much more than 6 inches, but for right now, it is very likely that there will at least be 6 inches of snow, but there is definitely a chance for over a foot of snow in this area from eastern Wisconsin all the way back through southwest Minnesota. And we'll keep you posted with any changes to the forecast over the next several days, so make sure that you are subscribed down below and click that bell icon as well so you get notified when the latest forecasts come out. Now, in terms of ice accumulation, there will be a very large area that we're watching. It is a very thin area as well, so with this, things will probably shift a little bit, but for right now, the general look at ice will likely be from eastern Nebraska back through areas near the Wisconsin and Illinois border and through southern Michigan. And it does seem to be like southern Michigan will get impacted the worst out of this. There will be a chance for upwards of a ½ inch of ice, but again, accumulation is a bit of an uncertainty with anything right now since we are still a few days out, but things will be refined as we get closer, so stay tuned. Once we go into the Northeast, there will be a threat for also some heavy snow along with the threat for some ice. Freezing rain is going to be possible in areas near New York going through early portions of Thursday, and once we go into the afternoon and evening hours, there will still be a mix of some rain, snow, and maybe even some sleet. And then once we go into Friday morning, mostly just a light snow for New England. And then once we go into later sections of Friday, most of this will clear out into the Atlantic Ocean. In terms of snowfall accumulation, things will obviously change as we get closer, but you can probably expect 3 to 6 inches in a large chunk of New England. Now, where will the snow actually fall and will it be this far to the south is a bit of an uncertainty point again, but we'll have more details for you as we get closer as things become much more certain. In terms of ice accumulation, again, big question mark here, but it does seem to be like we'll probably see a lot more ice in areas like New York and even back through Massachusetts. There will probably be a better chance there for some ice accumulation. Now, in terms of the temperatures over the next several days, this low pressure system will bring a somewhat Arctic blast, but it really will not impact that many people in the United States. It'll primarily be in the northern and central plains. It will not reach down to Texas or even into the southeast like what we've seen back in December and as well as January. So some good news there. Once we go into next week, which is a bit far out from now, things will likely warm back up. So this Arctic blast will not last too long, but it will at least impact some people in the United States. Now, there will be a threat for severe weather once we go into Wednesday of this week. So we'll be watching areas in East Texas back through Western Tennessee. We'll keep you posted with the latest details on this, and we'll have more details on the severe weather situation in our next forecast. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already. This forecast is brought to you by Platinum Contracting.